Rick, it's a real privilege to be able to talk to you here. Let's start from the beginning. I want to understand when it was that you found out something was wrong, and then a little bit of what the diagnosis was of it, and then a little bit of what they said was the prognosis of it. If you could just briefly tell us that, that'd be great.
Sure. I was diagnosed in February of 2019 with really advanced terminal non-small cell lung cancer with an exon 19 deletion, which is just a mutational status. I'd had severe cough for 3 or 4 years leading up to that, persistent cough that just wouldn't go away. And went in for just a basic x-ray and CT, and that's when they found the mass. And first visit, we were given basically 5 months to live. You know, the first oncologist we talked to told us to go home and get our affairs in order, and we had about 5 months to live. So that was in 2019. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Where did you initially start receiving treatment? You know, where did you originally go, and then what type of solutions were you presented with?
Okay. Like so many people, we started out in a large university-backed teaching hospital, one of the big fancy ones with all the glass and the big fancy buildings. We started out, we did a lot of imaging, a little bit of lab testing. I had a large metastatic lesion in my spinal, at L1 vertebrae in my spine. It had to be removed, so we did a spine surgery to reconstruct the spine, and then a short course of targeted radiation on that spinal area, and then really the only other conventional treatment was a targeted therapy with an EGFR TKI. That was really all the conventional world had to offer.
And just out of curiosity, how did you went to the conventional just because that was what you thought was the best way to go? Did you have some friends that directed you, or you just knew where to go with that?
We were really naive. We didn't, at first we did, just like most people, we didn't know any better. You go to that first doctor and you start talking to them, and you're just led down that path. I did have a couple of close friends that came over and talked to me and kind of clued me in that there's more out there. And we started doing some research, a lot of reading, networking with a lot of other patients, other organizations, just to learn as much as we could.
So friends helped you a little bit with that. And when during the time with the conventional, with the protocols and what to do, did you say, well, then maybe there could be something else? You know, when in that process, it was through friends and then through your own research, or?
It was fairly early on. Wife is sitting back here. When did you say it was? It was like already in May or June.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was just a couple of months, but we thought, hey, maybe we should look at other things.
Yeah.
Okay. And in that first year, what lines of therapy were you interested in finding or researching or coming to a conclusion on?
The first couple of things that we're most excited about were the ketogenic diet, lowering the GKI, bringing your glucose down and ketones up, using beta-hydroxybutyrate esters, BHB esters like ketonate esters. Also a lot of supplements, a lot of vitamins, nutrients, plant extracts, things like that.
Okay. So when you were under conventional care and then you had some of these other options, did you keep the conventional care going? And then, how did you do that? I guess a little bit. If you did that, and then how was that received by the both the conventional?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that question because they think it has to be an either or, and that's absolutely not the case. We always bring these things alongside each other to help each other because there's a lot of synergies. Mm-hmm. So the conventional things that we do work better when we bring on these other adjunctive things. side effects are lessened, things just work better. So yeah, we brought these other things in and did them alongside conventional care.
Okay.
And we got zero support from the conventional world.
Okay.
So
So
in fact, we were humiliated and bullied and just brutalized by a lot of conventional doctors.
do you feel like most people that would do that would kind of give up with that then? Or you'd be put in a spot where you kind of give up with the supplemental care and you just go to the conventional?
So a lot of people do, especially when they're bullied.
Yeah,
And they're literally bullied.
yeah.
These are newly diagnosed patients who are making life altering decisions, and then they're bullied by these oncologists, and it's just a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are these other therapies, are they readily available, or are they covered by insurance? Is it pretty much that most people go the conventional way because that's just the easier route? What have you found out? It seems like you're kind of a pathfinder, to find something, have a tenacity to that, which is good, but how does that practically work?
It's definitely easier to find conventional care because all your major hospitals, all the major insurance policies, Medicare, everything, that's all they'll support is conventional care, chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. These other therapies are available. You can find them. Every state is a little different. We found, unfortunately, we live in Wisconsin, and there really isn't a lot of holistic and integrative doctors here. So we've had to do a lot of traveling. We've had to fly all over the country. But there is some people around, and you can find them. But no, nothing is covered by insurance.
So for some people it'd be prohibitive as far as how to travel, but the good part would be maybe some people are closer to things than they realize. And so you just each one has to individualize kind of doing it.
Yeah, every state is different.
Yeah. Yeah. So how has your disease progressed with these kind of conventional and supplemental things? How has that progressed over the years, and where is it at right now?
Just to back up a little bit, so we were diagnosed in about February of 2019. About a year in, we were in about January of 2020, we were responding really well. The lung tumors were shrinking, the spine tumors completely resolved, the lymph nodes were resolved, but I had some metastatic lesions in the brain, and those had started to possibly look like they were progressing and starting to grow. We basically decided to escalate treatment and bring on some more lines of therapy because most people know that it's fairly common for targeted therapies to develop resistance, within 6 to 12 months, and this was right around that time, so we were obviously a little bit scared.
Yeah.
And it decided to bring on a bunch more supportive and adjunctive things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after you had gone through those things, what was your expectation of what was the next step, or what was to happen?
I think the best thing would probably be to go through this list of things that we added next in 2020, and these seem to be a game changer for us. So we were already on a ketogenic diet. We added basically a rotational ketogenic diet where we weren't on it all the time. We're coming off of it sometimes. We added intermittent fasting, multi-day water fasts. Walter Longo, I think, is on this series too. Hats off to him. His work is fantastic. Helped me a lot. We addressed other things like in overall health and wellness too. Things like sleep quality and quantity. We addressed stress, emotional traumas that I had, mental health challenges. We improved exercise, doing daily exercise, which is an important thing. We added hyperbaric oxygen dives timed with high-dose IVC. We added more beta hydroxybutyrate ester supplementation with ketone aid, particularly right before and after hyperbaric dives. That was a big thing. We also added IV infusions of things like curcumin, resveratrol, quercetin, glutathione, a number of off-label medications, things like metformin, LDN, fenbendazole, doxycycline, a statin. We also reconnected with faith and brought the amazing healing power of the Lord into our team, and that was one of the absolutely most wonderful things. It should never be underestimated.
Wow.
A lot of detox work, had a lot of heavy metals in me, mercury, aluminum, parasites, fungal toxins, Lyme's disease, all these things had to be cleared up. A lot of lab biomarkers, we did a lot of testing, things like inflammation, insulin resistance, immune system function, and then worked on correcting all those, like thyroid function, hormone function. We added a high dose professionally administered cannabinoid with a high dose of THC, sublingual oils, and CBD and cannabigerol also. That was a big thing. Also a long list of supplements of all different vitamins, from vitamin C and D and E to CoQ10, plant extracts like curcumin, green tea, boswellia, the list just goes on and on. But all those things work together, and they all help each other accomplish a goal.
This list, has it worked pretty well for you, what you just listed, that multiple approach? We
think so, because what basically happened is it addressed all areas of health and wellness. And instead of focusing on just one genetic mutation, this is fixing all biological systems in the person that was wrong. Because I was really messed up. I was a really, really sick man. And all that stuff had to be fixed.
Wow. So can you just boil it down to this one thing?
I know, that's what everybody asks me. What is the one thing? Because I don't want to take all those pills.
Yeah.
The sad thing is no. I really believe that you need to hit everything. This is a picture of fat, sad Rick before diagnosis. Weighed over 300 pounds, really, really sick, high insulin resistance, really overweight, really unhappy. All the things that you have to do to change a person from that person to somebody who's happy and healthy and everything works in them. Those are the things that have to change. And you can't do it with one thing.
There's not one silver bullet. It's a multi. When you've gone through all this and learned all this, what's the single advice you give to others that have been in a similar situation of yours or starting in that process? What advice would you give them? The caregivers, the families that are around them, the whole environment of this, as you've gone through it, what do you say to them? What are some things you'd say to them?
There is no one single thing, but there's a few things that I'd really like to share with any newly diagnosed patient, caregiver, or family member out there. It's a list of 6 things. The first thing is you always have time. These advanced cancers like we have take years, in fact decades, to develop. Far too often, that first conventional medical oncologist you talk to will put fear in you and scare you and put a sense of urgency. It's, we have to start treatment on Monday, we got to get you in and start chemo right away. There's very, very rare occasions where you need to do that. Nearly all the time, you have time to ask questions, to do research, to read, ask other people what they're doing, get a second opinion, get a third opinion, get a fourth opinion. Don't stop asking questions until you're satisfied with what's going on.
Wow. Rick, I was just thinking, you showed the picture of sad, fat Rick. that took a while to get to 300 pounds. It wasn't overnight.
Right.
So-
I had to
so-
work hard
so
at that.
Getting to the happy Rick is going to take some time, and so, boy, it's great advice.
But it took 35 years
Yeah.
to get unhealthy, so
Yeah,
it's not going to happen overnight.
It's good.
The second thing is most of the people that I've run into, and I've met a lot of long-term survivors, nearly all of them have the best outcomes when they combine the very best of conventional care with the very best of integrative and holistic care. Too many people go just down one road, and the best outcomes always come from combining the best of both worlds.
Sure.
The third thing is people really, really need to learn the difference between a conventional medical oncologist and an integrative or holistic oncologist who's involved in integrative care. They're trained differently, they have to go to school in different places, they have a very different knowledge base, and it's really important to know the difference between who is who. The other really important thing is to ask the right questions of the right people. I've run into far too many patients who have had questions about integrative care, like questions about hyperbarics or questions about IVC or supplements. And they go and ask their conventional medical oncologist, and then they get really disappointed when they get humiliated and chased out of the building. These people are not trained. They don't understand these things. It would be the equivalent of going and building a house and having a bunch of contractors there. You got a plumber, you got an electrician, you got a roofer, you have all a bunch of people working on your house. If you have questions about the plumbing, you're not going to go and talk to the electrician about it. You're going to ask the plumbing questions of the plumber and ask the roofing questions of the roofer. It's really important that people do that.
The general contractor is the one that's seeing the big picture, the integrative, but a lot of times you got to ask the specific questions to the specific person, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The last couple of things, very rarely does the conventional model of using linear monotherapy, so using one drug at a time until it fails, very rarely does that result in successful long-term outcomes. That almost never works. And I encourage people to reach out to and find long-term survivors like you're watching on this show right now. Reach out to people like me and find out what they did, what combinations of things brought them good outcomes, because that's where your answers are.
Yeah.
Talk to people. We're willing to help and talk and share.
Yeah.
That's your best resource.
Rick, those are
That's
great.
it.
Those are great 6 principles. I mean, really, those are good. I really know that you spent a lot of time thinking through that, and that those are really special. They really are. I pray that they can help people, to know and get good direction from that.
I wish we would have had somebody on our first day come along with that list of those 6 things.
Yeah,
It would have
exactly.
changed. It would have speed everything up.